Good afternoon, Razorback Nation. We are back with your Sunday afternoon Razor Recap. Razor Recap is brought to you by Scarlet Letter, Arkansas's very own handcrafted spiked seltzer. Check them out today. And if you're in Northwest Arkansas, you can check out the Core Brewery Tap Room where you can get Scarlet Letter and all their various flavors. And it is also brought to you by Jared's Kickin' Sauce, the perfect blend of sweet and spice to transform any meal. Whether you're grilling burgers, roasting chickens, or just need a snack-worthy dip for crackers, Jared's Kickin' Sauce makes bland food good and good food great. Don't settle for ordinary. Kick it up a notch with Jared's Kickin' Sauce, your go-to sauce for every occasion. Grab your bottle now at kickinsauce.com and let the flavor party begin. You can use Go Hawgs for 10% off that order. Go Hogs, no capital letters, for 10% off your order of Jared's Kickin' Sauce. So go check them out today. Fantastic things. It's good on everything. Seth, back before you take a step back, was talking about how it says favorite on grilled cheeses. So it can go with anything. So we'll jump in here with some basketball. I don't want to, not much to talk about there as far as same old for the most part of, same struggles Arkansas has had. What it reminds me of, guys, is, that old commercial where the guy's standing there and he's got the dollar bill on the fishing line, and just as you're about to grab it, he just jerks it away. That's how, this team's got me feeling, because you thought after the game last week that, okay, maybe they could, they got that first win under their belt. Maybe they can take a step forward, take something from that game, whatever it may be, momentum, just something. And then we come back to Bud Walton's last night for an extremely long game, I might add. I think that's something we might have to get used to for these Arkansas games down the stretch. But kind of the same situation you've seen all season. We struggle to score at times. There's not great officiating. Some guys struggle to get going. Like you had Jonas Adu, who only played 9 minutes this game, had one singular rebound and one turnover, and that was the stats for him for the game. So, just general thoughts on yesterday. It's like kind of I titled the episode, Arkansas took, it seemed like a step forward with getting that first SEC win. But then in a game like this, in a game where you should win this game, you take 3 steps back with another loss, and now you got a week break before you go into Rupp Arena to take on Kentucky, who lost to Vanderbilt yesterday, I might add. So,
yeah, I wouldn't necessarily agree that it's 3 steps back, but it's a step back. I think they actually showed a lot of fight that they usually don't in their losses. They got down. We've seen it more than 2 or 3 times already, where they go and they get on this hot start for a few minutes, and then they just completely blow it and get down by double digits, and they just stay down by double digits. And this time they didn't. They clawed back. They got within 4 by halftime, and then it was just off to the races. They played very good defense in the second half. Oklahoma's one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the SEC, and they held them to 0-5 in the second half. They also they were not bad from 3. In the first half, they were better. They were 38%. Second half, 28%. But they're still 9-27. Hit more threes than Oklahoma. It was just Oklahoma played a little bit better when they needed to, or the ball bounced their way when they needed to. They just had a couple more plays than Arkansas, and that's really the difference in the game. Of course, Arkansas, there were some times it was ugly. One of the things that I thought was, but if you look at social media, they don't agree with me. The way that Jonell Davis played, there was a few mistakes, but dude, 18 points. He hit 3 3-pointers. He was nearly perfect from the free throw line. That's where we would kind of want him to come. Now, you don't necessarily want him to take that last shot, or a little bit better decision making. Instead of trying to hit like a reverse layup, you either try to go for just a regular layup right there, or you kick it out to DJ Wagner, who's wide open. You can put a lot of blame on them, but let's be honest. I mean, there's a lot of times Arkansas could have, not screwed up. Case in point, fouling 2 3-pointers right in a row, which I'm not exactly sure if that last one was a foul anyway. But like you said, it was a long game, and it's kind of getting ridiculous how there's sometimes that people can be borderline, assaulted in the paint, and then there's other times where you can breathe on them a little heavily, and there's a foul. So it's the SEC officiating is just trash, man. And it's not just because they're like favoring one team or another. They just are incredibly inconsistent.
Yeah, and then you kind of just went right exactly to where I was going. There was College Game Day was talking about how Dan Hurley, the head coach for UConn, they won back-to-back national titles. How he goes just nuts on the sideline, and they're saying that he's acting like a baby, and it's kind of like starting to favor his team getting calls because how he's acting. But was it a foul? Was it not a foul at the end of the game on Nelly Davis? I'm not an SEC official. I can't tell you yes or no, but I can tell you there was a little bit of contact, and even on the Thero trying to hit the putback, there was a little bit of contact there too. So I saw a couple instances where maybe they could have blew the whistle, because it seems like it happens to Arkansas all the time. Whether they can have their hands up, playing good defense, not even really touch the guy, or barely not, and the guy actually will drive into them and get the foul call. I've seen it multiple times. So I agree with you, Austin. I think the officiating is a little bit inconsistent. You just never know what's going to happen. I know we don't need to put ourselves in position to where an official can dictate the game. But it's just very frustrating because we could have had, a 2-game winning streak going. But, it is what it is. And I think, Caleb, like you said, it's going to be a lot of long games moving forward, because we're going to have to play the free throw game. We are shooting free throws better. But, we may actually have some baseball games go quicker than our basketball games are going this year. So with how good our pitching is. So we'll see.
I was about to say that could be very true.
Right.
And like you were saying too, when you're looking at it, last night, watching this game right there at the end, they go back for a review. And at first I'm like, okay, they're going to go back and actually maybe review that for contact. No, they're going back and reviewed whether Oklahoma's shot went in before time expired.
Because they're trying to make sure. I don't know. What was the line in the game? Do you know?
I think it was 3.5.
2 points. Was it 3? Yeah, 3.5.
Okay, so that could have been another reason why they went to review it. Who knows?
But and that's one thing. It's like they didn't call that foul right there at the end. And you look at earlier in the game, they probably called some calls that were less contact than that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like Austin's talked about last week, and today it's like the inconsistencies. It's Transplant Texan says here, officials make a lot of calls based on tendencies. When Arkansas is known for not making shots and not being in the correct position on defense, the calls will not favor the Hawgs.
Yeah, that I don't like that. It's kind of like, hey, you know what? We're gonna call balls and strikes on this pitcher's tendencies. He has a tendency of missing this curveball. So I'm gonna call it a ball every single time instead of calling what's actually on the floor. I don't like that. Now, here's the thing though. I'm okay with the call on no call at the end. I really don't think there was a foul on Nelly or on
Thero.
But the thing is, they called that type of stuff all night long for Arkansas and for Oklahoma, all night long. and
But then at the end of the game,
didn't do it at the end. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like they couldn't swallow their whistles until the very last play of the game, and I'm like, well, of course. The thing is, they did that against Georgia too, except they didn't. They did call it at the end of the game, and Arkansas benefited from it. So it's kind of like, like I don't like that type of whistle, but if you're gonna do it, like do it consistently.
it's like do it consistently inconsistent. Like,
yeah. Just if you're going to call a bad game all night, call it all night.
And you mentioned
Don't
baseball.
stop at the very end.
You mentioned baseball. It's the same way in baseball. If you're going to call strikes for one team, call the same pitch for us. Like it's cool if you're going to be out. The zone's going to be one way, but make sure you call it the same way for both teams.
Right. Have it, inches off the plate for both teams, not just the one. But I mean, when you dive into some stats, like you said, Austin, you look at the game from Nelly Davis. He plays 35 minutes in this game, puts up 18 points, 5 of 16 from the field, hits 3 of 11 from deep. Shooter's going to shoot. Some of the shots that it just amazed me that the shots you thought should have went in didn't, but then he takes these crazy step backs or these that are 5 foot behind the line and no big deal. He drains them. Like 5 of 6 from the line, 3 rebounds, 4 steals for Nelly. So decent game for Nelly.
And only 1 turnover. I mean, I don't know how accurate that is, but only 1 turnover.
Yeah. And so you look at it, I think if we weren't in the position we're in right now, people would be fine with this stat line from Nelly. But I think with everything going on right now, losing Boogie, people are needing him to do even more than this, which is, I feel like, asking a lot at this point in time when, you got a great game out of Nelly. But it's like other guys it's like Cal said after the Georgia game, nobody hurt us. And in this game, you had some players hurt you in this game. Adu not scoring any points. Billy Richmond not scoring any points. Knox started out the game well, hitting 2 threes right off the bat in the game. But then, only scores 2 more points the rest of the way. Had some intangible plays, but that's where I think that it's going to be down the stretch is like if Adu gives you 5 points, I mean that's enough to almost push you over the edge here. Billy Richmond just seems like a guy that when you watch him play, just does not seem comfortable necessarily handling the ball, or even like he's very wild when he goes up for shot attempts. And I think that's something that he needs to grow from. But it's like if you don't have those 2 guys hurt you, maybe we're talking about an Arkansas win and a 2-game win streak right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just 1 or 2 errors, really. I mean, if we're being honest, Oklahoma didn't play that great of a game either. But Arkansas forced a lot of errors for Oklahoma still. It's really just who came down and played just a little bit better, and it was Oklahoma. Oklahoma had the ball, bounced their way a couple more times. Oklahoma had executed on a play a couple more times, and that was just it. To be honest, I mean, the only thing that really showed its head again was the lack of rebounding, and that's probably the main reason why Arkansas lost. I mean, Oklahoma had 13 turnovers, Arkansas had 9. So
turnover margin.
That's not bad. I mean, the percentages weren't horrible either. I mean, Arkansas shot 37%, 33 from 3, which is better than what they've been doing. Usually they're like upper 20s. Honestly, it's just rebounding. They out-rebounded them like by 6. And offensive rebounds weren't – I mean, they weren't bad, but they weren't as good as they were against Georgia. They weren't as determined to really get the ball back. It sucks, but I'm not incredibly disappointed with the performance yesterday. I'm just disappointed that they couldn't pull it out again.
Yeah.
Because you think about it, I mean, 2 of those points, not that they shouldn't have counted, but 2 of those points were just, garbage points at the end of the game.
Yeah, I think a lot of our the last 2 years, a lot of the things that have gone wrong for us have been lack of big man play. We just haven't had it consistently, at least. This year we had, Adu, and he's just been so inconsistent. And, it's amazing because I watched him play at Tennessee last year. It seemed like every time I watched him play, he was killing it. Big Z has had some turnover issues and was shooting very well in the beginning of the season. And now he's not, he hasn't shot very well in SEC play. But it's just, I miss guys like Jalen Williams and Bobby Porras, and Daniel Gafford,
Well, and it's like, even if you think back to Muss last year, like at this point in time with how they're playing right now, not saying just Jonas Adu overall, but the Jonas Adu we've seen this season, give me Mitchell from last year.
Yeah.
Like, at least he would go in and fight and get some rebounds.
That's what I'm saying, man. I want to see somebody fight for the ball, like fight for the basketball. You can look sloppy on offense all day, but I want to see somebody fight to get loose balls. Give me some energy.
Yeah. Let me pose this question, you guys, and for the viewers out there, feel free to put what you think in the comments. But at this point in time where we're sitting at right now in the season, who do you guys consider more of a bust, Jonas Adu or Nelly Davis? It's a tough question, but
going forward, I have more faith in Davis just because he's going to have more chances. But I don't know, but that's tough. To be honest, though, Adu is kind of more of a disappointment to me. I mean, before yesterday, it probably been a different answer, but that stat line is just bad. I don't know what the heck's going on with him. And the thing is, I feel like he should be the more consistent person, because that's what's your job? You go down there and you get rebounds and you get putbacks and, protect the rim a little bit. And he just hasn't done it.
Yeah. And that's like, to me, if you think about it, like, to me, as much as, and it might be something they're not advertising a lot, is, to me, from the time he does play, Adu doesn't seem fully healthy to me right now. Even though Cal said he's, for the most part should be, he mentioned it. He was right there, 70, 80% right there before conference play. But, if he's not healthy, then I'd rather, and that's the tough point or tough thing to look at right now, is not play him at all. But right now you can't afford to not play him because then you're down to 7 guys. So you have to try to get some minutes out of him. But that's where, like, even if you play minutes, give me 2-3 points, give me something, not just a big goose egg that, those couple of points could have made a difference in the game potentially.
Yeah, that's a great question. Is he really fully healthy? Because he moves so slow compared to what I've watched in the past at Tennessee, and so I don't know. I have to go Adu on that too, because I think Davis is going to come on strong at the end of the year. I think I agree with Austin. Davis played a lot better, and if he finds his rhythm, he'll start knocking down shots more.
And you got to think, I mean, who had the higher bar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Davis had the higher bar. He came in here, everybody thought he was going to be the dude. Adu was a piece to the puzzle, and he hasn't met his bar at all. And at least it looks like Davis is starting to come along on the last couple games. And Adu just he doesn't have to go far to meet where we expected him to be, and he just hadn't done it. Davis, his bar is super high, and he hasn't made it. But I mean, he's got a further gap to go. Sorry, I had a point before that, but I can't remember that now. Okay, yeah. Where's Brazil?
Yeah,
like I don't understand why he's not having bad stat lines. And there's a couple times where he makes a couple mistakes, but it just feels like Cal's a little bit tighter leash on him than
some of the other guys.
some of the other guys, and that might be because he's not the one he chose,
Maybe.
which sucks. But I mean, like, dude, you don't got an option. You got to play him a little more. 17 minutes, and then he only gets 2 shots. That's just not good enough for me. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like you got to put him out there. Put him and Big Z out there. You want to talk about rim protection? That's rim protection.
I mean,
You
it's
should
like
be able to smother people in the paint.
And it's I saw the little stat that they announced like right at the beginning of the game where they said Arkansas 6th in nationally in D1 for averaging 5.3 blocks a game.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a moment in that game where Big Z had like 3 blocks in a row, something like that.
Yeah, and the thing is, I feel like they have a lot more blocks than what's being counted too, because, and they might just be more or less shot affecting, than blocks. Either that, or they just get a finger on it and the stat person doesn't see it. But still, they've got people to keep people out of the paint to affect those shots more than a lot of guys, a lot of teams in the country. And they're not even one of the tallest teams in the country. They just have 2 really tall / athletic guys. And that's not even the problem. The problem is the 3-point line. Arkansas can't guard that to save their lives.
Yeah. If you jump over and look at, some of the comments, good points here, it's like Transplant Texan says Big Z is putting together a better, performance out of him and Adu than with an SEC play. And then Big Z is just not a true big man as far as size. I mean, height-wise, short. But, I mean, to the other point, where was it? Big Ben says here, and I noticed this last night, Big Z got touched in it. It was like his arm fell off last night. He kind of ran into a guy, if you will, right there towards the end of the game. And it seemed like, he was in a ton of shoulder pain. But from what I could tell, it didn't seem like it was that big of a collision. But if you look at it, like Transplant Technic said, he said, bingo. Adu does appear injured. He said Curtis Wilkerson on Inside Arkansas alluded to as much based on his warm-up before this game. So it's like if he's injured, that's the catch-22. If he's injured, don't play him. But if he's not hurt enough where he's still playable, you kind of have to, like, even though he played 9 minutes, that was 9 minutes of rest for somebody. I mean, so it's that catch-22. It's like he could probably get better faster if it's something that is a nagging, if he could sit some games, but you can't afford to sit him for a game. So Big Ben says, man, we got 7 days to get ready for UK and lose by 20. I don't know what else to say. We're to that point. Kentucky's coming off a loss, but we're going to Rupp. If you saw it yesterday, I tweeted out, this is one that surprised me too, was College game day for Arkansas basketball decided to go to Duke UNC instead of Cal's return to Rupp. I get Duke UNC is a big game. Don't get me wrong. I love watching that game as much as anybody. But how many times do you have a Hall of Fame head coach return to a place he won a title, spent 10-plus seasons with a different team within the same conference, and you choose to go to a game that happens every season? Like, you don't even have Coach K at Duke anymore.
It happens twice, don't it?
Yeah, that happens, twice a year in conference play for the ACC where, I mean, this is really the only time that happens as far as the first time he's back in Rupp. I mean, you'll probably see it in the next few years during conference play, but.
And here's the thing is UNC's not even good this year. Duke's probably going to wipe the floor with them in both games. I don't understand that at all. And the thing is, ESPN in game day, they got Arkansas fans and Kentucky fans to agree on something. You know how hard that is? It's not easy to do. And they did it. Congrats. And that's a stupid decision. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever why they would choose Duke in North Carolina. This is like history in the making. Everybody, and the thing is, if Arkansas wins, great story. If Arkansas loses, everybody gets to crap on Cal. It's a win-win no matter what. It doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said North Carolina's not very good this year. Neither are we. But
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like
but
it's the same thing.
You're right, and it's going to be a hype crowd. They're going to be going nuts. Kentucky's going to be fired up. Hopefully, we'll be fired up. But they did kind of miss on that one because they do UNC. They do UNC and Duke every year. But it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, you've got UNC that they're 13-8 on the season.
That's right around us.
And they play, and they play in a worse league though.
That's true.
The ACC is not good at all.
Yeah,
you would think if Arkansas was playing a lot better and we were ranked, they would have made that decision. I would hope they would have, but
yeah. You'll get to know this name a lot around here, Hobbs. But Austin, our good buddy Halo Master 96 is back, and he says, "How's Cal working out so far?"
boy.
Bro, I know you ain't in here when you just lost to Vanderbilt. Be quiet.
I was about to say you're 500 in conference play. It's not even that you top the conference right now. So like don't bring that smoke in here when you're barely doing better than we are right now and 500 in conference play. That's not saying too much.
It's going to be a trash bowl when we go up to the Rub. That's what it is. I feel like Kentucky's mid this year in the SEC, which is it's not saying they're bad. They're good. It's just the SEC is insane.
I saw a stat the other day talking about Kentucky that said that this is the first year, as far as I guess this upcoming year, this is the first time in like years that they haven't had a 5-star committed to their recruiting class in I don't know how many years.
Wow.
Yeah,
it'll be something because I don't feel like Kentucky is as attractive as it used to be. And I feel like maybe a part of that is the way that Cal's tenure ended there. Plus I feel like people just started going to Kentucky because they like Cal instead of the brand.
Playing for the brand. Yeah.
Yeah. And I felt like that since Cal left and he brought all those people with him. And yeah, I don't know. Mark Pope just isn't nearly as attractive as John Calipari is, and it's not anything against Pope. It's just John Cal. He's put so many people in the league, and that's kind of one of the criticisms is that he's not here to win basketball games. He's here to put people in the league, in which I get it, but you got to have that kind of talent to win championships. So it's kind of a catch-22 there, but.
Well, it's like I saw the other day. I forgot which one it was, referring to Malik Thomas and Darius Acuff. But there's a story that came out, or somebody was talking about how one of those two recruits has wanted to play for Coach Cal since he was like 4 years old, and so he's going to play for Coach Cal. It didn't matter if he was at Arkansas, if he was at Kentucky. Heck, if Coach Cal went to Vanderbilt, he's probably going to Vanderbilt to play for Coach Cal. You're going to have guys like that. I think that's why you see some people might question it, but all these guys that had sons that played for Cal before, and now their sons are playing for Cal. So,
right.
And that's just another prime example that we had one of the best transfer portals and recruiting classes, and it just these guys haven't gelled well together. It just hadn't panned out. But that's not to say next year's we won't have another top recruiting class, another top transfer portal, because we still are going to have Cal here, and he's not going to have a bad recruiting class. It's never happened. So Arkansas could turn it around in a blink of an eye. So
yeah, just give me some more quantity next year and the talent you bring in, because right now, as you're looking at it, you're going to have some good pieces to build around next year. Because ideally, to me, if I'm looking at this roster right now, Billy Richmond's back, Carter Knox is back. Big Z's back. I think it's 50-50 whether DJ Wagner's back. Brazil, who knows? So, I mean, you could have a potentially talented deep roster next year if some of these guys stay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And then you add the two guys like Acuff and I can't remember the
Malik Thomas, and then you've got Isaiah Sealy from right here in Springdale as well.
Yeah,
he's just as talented as some of these guys, but not necessarily as much media attention, because I think he's one of those guys that he didn't go to all these camps or what they call it, I feel like pay to play, where they're not going. He's not going to all of these camps, these like big overtime elites and things like that. He's like playing basketball for Springdale High School. So
yeah.
Just get us one of those guys that Cal had at Kentucky. What was that guy's name? That it was just a few years ago where he would get like 20 rebounds a game. I think he won SEC Player of the Year.
Chibwe?
Yeah, get us one of them guys. That's what we need.
Should go in there and rebound.
And, he was a transfer too, right? He came from West Virginia, I'm pretty sure.
I think so. Yeah, I think you're right.
So it's not like Cal doesn't know how to use the transfer portal. I mean, he's done it with him, and then who was the guy who did threes last year for Kentucky?
What's his
man. Dadgummit. I'll look it up. We can
keep
going.
While you're looking that up, we'll jump back over the comments real quick. Transplant Texan, referring back to the question I asked earlier, said Davis is a bust. He does not appear like he will reach production level that he was at last season, but he's contributing. Adu is the bigger bust because he's not doing much of anything. I agree. I mean, that's what we just talked about.
Yeah.
I feel like the expectation was probably higher for Nelly Davis because you saw what he did last year. 20 plus points at FAU per game. Shooting nearly 50% from the 3-point line, things like that.
Antonio Reeves.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure Antonio Reeves was a transfer. I'm sure Halo Master could prove me wrong if he wanted to.
Yeah, Halo, tell us about Kentucky.
And then Transplant Texan also said Big Z is not the bump and grind player in the paint. He does block shots and he can score, but he's not a true big man in his play. But his size assists him in some areas like the blocks. It's like the comparison I've seen, and I agree to an extent, is he's to me a little bit more talented Connor Vanover.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. I've been hard on him all year too, especially about the physicality part. And obviously, I've also had a couple times where I've been barely touched, or it looks like I'm barely touched, and something just hurts like that. So I'm not calling him a big baby for that necessarily. But it looks like he is getting a little bit more physical, especially with rebounding. I still wish he would pull it closer to his chest a little bit faster when stuff like that happens. I wish it was a little bit more careful with the dribble afterwards, all kinds of stuff like that. But I feel like it's a teaching thing. He's come from this European tree where it's not nearly as physical.
It's more finesse basketball.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta be a little bit patient. I feel, and that's why I don't. He's not going to go to the league. I feel like he's going to come back. But I feel like getting to where he is being a little bit more physical.
Yeah, I was going to say, heck, he could even be a guy that spends 4 years here and then goes and plays back over in Europe. I mean,
yeah. You're probably right about that. And I've witnessed a couple of times where there's a guard driving to the paint and he's right underneath the basket and he doesn't even attempt to jump and block the shot. Sometimes his height does help him even block the shot, but there's times where that guard will just go straight in and lay it up when he could have just jumped a little bit and blocked the shot. So it's frustrating to watch, but I'm not 7'3", so it's hard for me to really know, what it feels like to get hit any certain way. But unfortunately, when you're that big, it's hard to put on any kind of weight and muscle.
Yeah. And that's what he needs to do. He needs this offseason. He really needs to hit that hard. and just having that muscle to be able to control his body a little bit better. Because I mean, he doesn't have horrible handles. I mean, he's not Wimby or anything like that.
No.
But he can have that type of movement if he could just get a little bit stronger, especially in his core and his legs. If he can control his body a little more, he's going to be a better defensive player, and he's going to be a hell of a lot better a few feet away from the basket. So like that, I don't remember. He missed the ball. I mean, he missed the layup, I'm pretty sure. But there was one play where he's like 10 feet away from the basket, and he's dribbling, and he does a spin move, and he gets up to the rim, and he misses. But I mean, that's an athletic play for a guy who's 7'3". And just him being able to do that is impressive. And if he can get just a little bit stronger in the midsection and his legs, I feel like he could actually be a legit NBA player. I don't even think he needs to go back overseas to play.
Yeah. For me, it's like with how he is now, like that's, like you said, that's an off-season project right now. I seen him do it a couple of times last night. Is if he can come off the pick and roll or some type of play where you get it to him, he would be that type of player, since like he doesn't have the weight, the body to right now to necessarily just back down somebody. Work on like perfecting that, that hook shot, that baby hook, because he's got the height to do that. He can come off pick and roll, you feed him, and then, if he can just hook that, I mean, there you go.
Absolutely.
He did it a couple times last night. I'm like, let's do that again. But, so we'll see. Back to what we were saying with the national media thing is Transplant Texas national media will use Cal's return to Kentucky for smaller segment mileage. However, let's face it, they like the Blue Buds like Duke and UNC more.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, everybody's talking about how bad Cal is doing, right? And if you want to pull it up, a couple of comments down, he says that it's good for, I think that's it. Wider viewership when Arkansas is just, kind of regional, but I don't think it's regional. Everybody in the country knows who Cal is. Everybody in the country is talking about it. And it's a massive storyline in college basketball. If ESPN wanted to, they could blow it up. They really could. Mm-hmm. And Arkansas and Kentucky could both be, complete trash and still have a decent viewership with it. But yeah, like you said, it's because they're blue bloods basically. But I don't know. Well, it's just dumb. I still think it's dumb.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Sunday night baseball. Anytime the Red Sox and Yankees are playing, they're always going to show them on TV no matter what.
Yeah.
Fair enough. As we get caught up here real quick, Transplant Texas, as far as talking about recruiting, said Pope doesn't have the celebrity connections like Cal did, but Cal is also not bringing celebrities to a losing program at Arkansas right now. You haven't seen too many courtside celebrities at Arkansas games this year, but like that's a good point. I mean, Cal is more of along with the coach, he is in himself a celebrity. He's Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Everybody knows who Coach Cal is, whether you watch basketball or not. That's just like everybody knew who Coach K was. Like it's just one of those things. Everybody's gonna know who he is.
Yeah.
Half the people, I guarantee you could ask a lot of people, and they're gonna be like, "Who's this Mark Pope guy you're talking about?" Unless you're talking to maybe some diehard SEC/Kentucky fans who knew he played on the championship team back with Kentucky in '95. But
I mean, if you ask the random person on the street who the head coach of Arkansas, Kentucky, North Carolina, and Duke is right now, I guarantee you most of them would know who Arkansas's coach is, but not any of the other ones.
That's true. That's
what it is.
Right.
So, yeah. Question here from Transplant Texans. It's talking about next year. Who would you keep, Brazil or Big Z? Cal cannot keep too many players on this roster unless he plans to pull NIL on some and move them down to like the 10 to 15 man roster position.
Uh-oh. Caleb's gone.
We
He'll be
lost
back.
him.
But we can go ahead and answer this. I mean, to me, I feel like Big Z has a higher floor. There he is. I feel like Big Z has a higher floor than TB does. I do. And as a Brazil, fan, that's hard for me to say, but if we're only going to keep one of them, I'm keeping probably Big Z.
Well, I think if you look at it between TB and Big Z, it's like with Brazil, you kind of already know what you're going to get at this point. With Big Z, this is the first time he's in your program. He didn't get a ton of playing time last year at Kentucky because of eligibility. So there's still left a lot of potential left with him if he can come back with. Whereas Brazil, you've been kind of hoping you can get there every year, just hoping he gets to that point. It's like even Cal said, he's like, I know he can give me more than what he's doing. And he said that's like some nights that's, he's having to kind of really push him to, he's like, hey, I know you can play better than what you're doing right now. So I'm kind of along the lines with you. It's like, if you can get Big Z back, which I mean, he'll probably be back, but if you can get him back and then put some weight on him, put some more muscle on him, because I think he did put on some muscle and weight in the offseason this year. But if you can kind of bulk him up just a little bit more, I mean, you have a potential, like you said, NBA level big man, not necessarily a star, but a guy that is a good rotational key player.
Yeah, I agree about Big Z because it just like you said, he barely played last year. So really, it's almost like he's still a freshman. So if he can just get the fundamentals down, where if he's got the ball down in the paint, and he's so tall, he could if he gets the vision a little bit better, he could dish it out to guys for three that's open, or like you mentioned, the hook shot down, because he's great behind the arc when he gets going. He's probably one of the best shooters on the team, and non-conference play, he was our best shooter. So I agree about Big Z.
Yeah, and you were talking about that vision. I don't mean to go back and start talking about it again, but that last play, if Big Z drives that ball just a little bit and pulls that defender off Finelli, I mean, that probably would have been a better play than what happened, And
even that, it was still a good pass to him.
It was still a good pass. But if he can drive just a little bit more and pull a little bit of attention to himself, that would be even better. So like he has potential to where he can do that. And I don't think he could have done it yesterday necessarily, but I think in the future that could be a huge draw, because if he can dribble, if he can drive, man, that's dangerous.
Yeah. It's like Transplant Texan says here, that hook shot from Big Z was nice. I mean, if we can see more of that, I'll take it. Get him to roll off pick and roll, feed him the ball, let him throw up that hook shot. Now we're talking business.
Because nobody's blocking that hook shot.
No.
Not happening.
You look like Kareem out there, just
yeah.
I'm just kidding, guys. Don't come at me. But
Austin says Big Z is new Kareem. Headline.
No, don't put that out there. People will be like, "Oh, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about."
Oh man.
But yeah, so at the end of the day, kind of as we round out the basketball talk here, Arkansas drops one that was very much winnable last night. You hate to see it, and I like you said, Austin, maybe it's not necessarily 3 steps back, but there was some progress, but also you should have won this game at the end of the day, and it sucks. But you got a week off. Don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing necessarily, but you got a week off now. No midweek game this week. And next Saturday, you're headed to Rupp Arena. Cal said he's already prepared for it to be an emotional game because, he is returning to a place that, he called home for, 10-plus seasons, won a title there, was a big part of the community and all these things. And, you got to think maybe – I don't know if it'll be as a big of a deal for guys like you think DJ Wagner, Duthero, Big Z, guys that they were there, but is it necessarily as a big deal to them? So I'll be interested. It's another late tip-off. They just love giving Arkansas these late tip-offs, and then we have a 2.5-hour game. Fantastic stuff there. So
at least it's on Saturday, and I don't have to stay up so late and go to work in the morning.
Absolutely.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, Arkansas travels to Kentucky next Saturday. I believe the tip-off is at 8 o'clock. So another late one for us. But at least it's on Saturday, and we can grind through it all together and see what happens. But we'll move on from there. I don't know how much you guys paid attention to it, but I went last Friday. Arkansas Gymnastics had a huge upset win over the defending national champions and number 2 gymnastics team in the country this season, the LSU Tigers. It was a packed arena. It was the 3rd largest crowd in program history for this gymnastics meet. You come out and overall attendance was 9,874 people attending this gymnastics meet, 3rd highest in program history. Total student attendance, you had over 1,700 students at the game, which is a new student attendance record as well. It's like Seth and I said in the previous years of talking about this sport is growing exponentially, and then you just coming off of just having the Olympics this past summer, having the storyline of, for LSU, Livy Dunn, the big storyline for LSU gymnastics. For Arkansas Gymnastics, I personally think it should be as big of a storyline as you having a former Olympian on your team in Jocelyn Robertson. I mean, you have them spread out with, Jordan Childs with UCLA and Jade Carey with Oregon State. But, we have a freaking Olympian on our team, and she was the actual overall high score in the meet. But, man, this meet kept you entertained straight up until the end. My wife and I we have season tickets, but this is one of those where gymnastics is always fun to watch because, like, as me as a casual watcher, and I'm trying to get more in tune to it, is you see them do whatever it is, whether it be the vault, beam routine, bars, floor exercise, and you're like, man, that was great. But then, the score is a 9.825. It's like, what are these judges seeing that I'm not seeing that they count off for? So, that's where I'm trying to continue to learn more. But, this Arkansas Gymnastics team has, a lot of potential. We were ranked, I believe it was 17th before this match, gets the upset over number 2. What's going to be Arkansas' strong suit this season is going to be their floor performance. That's really what brought us back in this meet, because we going into the last rotation of this meet, Arkansas was down. You had the lowest score for Arkansas on the floor exercise was a 9.775, and you have 6 gymnasts perform, and you dropped the lowest score, so that score was dropped. So the lowest counted score was a 9.825, and compared to LSU's last rotation, they had their beam rotation. They struggled in that mightily, and that's what gave Arkansas this gap to be able to, perform great. Frankie Price for Arkansas, known for her amazing floor exercises, scored a 9.950. One judge actually gave her a 10. The other one didn't. So she was close to having a 10. Should have been a 10. But at the end of the day, I think this Arkansas Gymnastics team might shock some people.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. If I were a judge, everybody would be getting 10s because I don't know. I find it incredible that these people can do that with their bodies. It's nuts. But yeah, no, I think it also helps that you have an Olympian, a former Olympian, as your head coach.
As your head coach.
Now, you want to talk about we've talked about Hunter Yurchek a couple of times here, but let's not minimize what he's done with coaches. I mean, Courtney Deifel is a great coach. He's brought in Jordan Weaver, former Olympian, big name. Like, if you say Jordan Weaver to most of the people in the country, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, I know who she is. Might not know she's coaching at Arkansas right now, but they're like, oh, yeah, that name sounds familiar. You get, what's his name? Coach Cal here.
And before him, Musselman.
And Musselman, he's brought in a lot of these really, at least big name coaches.
You keep Van Horn happy. I mean,
yeah, it's that's why I kind of want to I like Coach Pittman, right, as a person, and I don't mean to get on to this, but I really kind of want to see what he would do in the football side of things too,
Right.
because
If
he really didn't
make
have
it.
that choice with Pittman.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to gymnastics. Yeah, dude, it's exciting to have stuff. These smaller sports that no one really talks about, especially women's sports, doing well. I know I've made the comment on here before that if we're gonna pick between letting Mike Neighbors go and paying out his stuff versus getting a new football coach, I'd rather get a new football coach because I just care about football more. But like the way that sport's kind of going, I really hope they do make a change because I like seeing women's sports do well here because everybody can talk about, oh, we have a great football team, we have a great basketball team, we have a great baseball team, but when you look at their other programs, they all just suck. And Arkansas at least has a decent basketball program, maybe not this year or last year, but in the past 5 years has a decent one, has one of the best baseball programs in the world, in the country, and now they can say that about every other women's sport too, except for women's basketball, and that's a cool thing to hold on to, especially for Hunter Yurachek, who kind of might be trying to get it, hang on to his job by the end of this season. So it's really cool to see the women in Arkansas sports go out and beat a number 1 or number 2 team in the country. And I wish I knew more about gymnastics, kind of like you, because like I said, every single one of them would be getting 10s if I were judging. But it's just cool to see that they're succeeding, when in the past they really haven't done that. I mean, I can't tell you one gymnast on Arkansas's team from 3 or 4 years ago. Or anything before that. But now you're hearing names thrown out like now I forgot her name, the Olympian
Jocelyn.
So it's kind of cool that you have people like that coming up and getting their names out there.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch it, but I was following along on Twitter. Really, really, really good win. I mean, anytime you beat the national champions, I don't care what sport it is, that's a huge deal, especially LSU, man. Anytime we
That
beat
makes it
them,
even sweeter.
yeah, exactly. And you said Liv Dunn is still at LSU?
Yes, she took a year off last year, didn't do any performances, and she only actually participated in one of the rotations the other night. So I don't know if she normally participates in more than one, but the one she did participate in didn't necessarily have the greatest performance either, So, but when you look at it, you beat the defending national champs, number 2 in the country, according to the daily poll. We'll see what the new weekly poll is, but the daily poll has LSU dropped 1 spot, and then Arkansas jumps 4 spots to 13. We'll see what the actual poll does whenever it comes out at some point this next week. But I mean, it's like we've talked about SEC dominance in other sports too. Look at gymnastics right now. Let me just read you off these part of this top 20 in gymnastics. Number 1, Oklahoma. Number 2, LSU. Number 3, Florida. Number 6, Kentucky. Number 10, Alabama. 11, Missouri. Auburn, 12. 13, Georgia. 17, Arkansas. A lot of SEC teams in that top 20.
Yeah,
pretty good.
That's the thing. I mean, that's what this coming down to. Our SEC is just dominating everywhere. I think probably the last frontier they have is, I would say, women's basketball. I mean, they have the 2 best programs in the country, or 2 of the top 5 best programs in the country in LSU and South Carolina, but there's really not much to, hang your hat on other than those 2 programs.
I was about saying, if you can technically count them, softball, I guess now, since they're part of the SEC, is you have Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Who won it the past
Mm-hmm.
bazillion years.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're very dominant in women's softball too.
Yeah, and Texas isn't bad at softball either, but the Southeastern Conference in softball is really, really good too.
Mm-hmm.
But now they have Oklahoma, dude. There's no question it's the best softball league.
I was about to say, Arkansas has been making several strides. They have a good squad this year, got a lot of top recruits. So it's going to be a fun, loaded, softball, part of the SEC as well as baseball. I feel like it's getting that baseball level where, all the teams, it's just a gauntlet, just like baseball. So it's
everybody but Missouri.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was about to say, Missouri does not have the facilities either. If you've watched any of their softball games, their field is not, their capacity is very minimal.
To say, you know what the thing is? I'm not sure Arkansas is going to beat Missouri in any sport except for baseball and softball. That's the two that I'm like, yep, that's a win.
3 wins.
We're good. 3 wins, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, so gymnastics has a big win. You love to see it. Those sports succeeding, and anytime you can beat LSU is also nice as well. But we'll jump over and talk about some of these baseball scrimmages that Arkansas had this past weekend. But before we do, go check out Smackin' Sunflower Seeds. Smackin' Sunflower Seeds, the bold flavor jumbo size snack that packs a punch with unique flavors like cinnamon churro, garlic parm. Backyard barbecue, Smackin' Sunflower Seeds are crafted in small batches to ensure top quality. Plus, with only 380 to 540 milligrams of sodium per serving, they won't leave your mouth feeling like sandpaper. You can order now at smackinsunflowerseeds.com and enjoy free shipping on orders over $50, plus a free cinnamon churro sampler with every purchase over $50. Don't settle for ordinary. Grab a handful of Smackin' Sunflower Seeds and elevate your snacking game. You can use variety sports in all caps for 15% off that order. Go check them out today. A lot of variety flavors, a lot of good flavors. And we'll jump into it. Arkansas had 3 scrimmages this past weekend, inter squad, and not full games by any length, but starting to get practice, starting to get dialed in, tuned up, whatever you want to call it, as the season's just a handful, over a little over 2 weeks away. You got that exact countdown, Hobbs, for us?
Yeah, we're Charlie Welch days away, 19.
There we go. There you have it. So we're right there under the 3-week mark. I think a lot of people are ready for baseball to get here. It's that infinite Arkansas fan cycle where Arkansas football is not great. So it's all right, let's get to basketball. Basketball struggling. It's like, all right, time for baseball. And it's just an infinite loop that we as Arkansas fans live in. But Arkansas baseball is close to being back. And we'll jump into this first game they had here on Friday. As it was between Cardinal and Gray. That's the 2 colors that they designated for these matchups. And within the first matchup, I thought it was an interesting matchup between the 2 squads where you had Gabe Geckel facing off against Gage Wood. Geckel, we talked about it. Being preseason pitcher of the SEC pitcher of the year. You have Gage Wood that has been, up and down, but has given you some great stuff over the past few seasons. He's in his junior season. He's one of those kind of upper leadership guys. And so kind of walk us through some of these things in this first game, Hobbs.
So a lot of things that these scrimmages, they're pretty much practice. They're not, they're not really playing. They are playing a game between each team, but the gray squad is pretty much the starters. And one thing that stood out to me is you had a little bit of your outfield pitcher kind of came together. They had Justin Thomas in left field, Charles Davalon in center, and Logan Maxwell in right field, which Dave Van Horn has already mention that Davalon and Maxwell have pretty much sealed up their jobs. They've earned their roster spot in the outfield. The left field has kind of been the other outfield position has kind of been up for grabs. And Diggs is still kind of getting back in the swing of things. He just now started taking live batting practice, and this was his first because he didn't get a chance to play in the fall. This was the first time Diggs got a chance to go up against live pitching, really, and he did really good. And another shocker was that Diggs was at first base for the red team in this game. Now he's we'll get into the other games though, but he played first base this game. Hit a cleanup for the gray team. Didn't get a hit in this game, but one thing that stood out about the starters, the gray team, you had Nolan Souza. He looked really good. He's hitting the ball very well, running the base pass really well, getting stolen bases. Souza has looked really good. He was at second base this game. Rocco Pepe hit a 2-run home run. Really just golfed it out. A lot of people said it didn't even look like – I didn't get a chance to watch the game, but I was listening and watching on Discord. But it looked like he just golfed it out. Didn't even try like he tried to swing. You know, Pepe, he's the one with the Popeye arms. That's how strong this kid is. So he golfed it out of the park. Justin Thomas had a hit. And Helfrich got on base every time and drove in 2 runs. So that's good to see. And then for the gray team, we have a freshman, Brenton Clark. He actually had led the team in fall ball on average. He hit over 350 in fall. So he's a guy that could sneak some playing time in, if not take over a position in the season. Very, very good. He went 1 for 2 with a walk. Cam Kozel, who we talked about on the previous show, that was battling Souza for the second base position. He started at second for the red team. He went 1 for 3. Gabe Frazier is another kid, freshman. He can play shortstop. They actually threw him in the outfield. He had never played outfield before in his life. But Dave just put him out there hoping they wouldn't hit a ball to him. But Justin Thomas smoked one to left field at him. It was pretty funny. But, yeah, Gabe Frazier, he's great. He's a great fielder, a good hitter, freshman. He's not going to really compete with Aloy's spot, but, you know, he may sneak some playing time in there. I could see him playing some midweek games, but he's got a little bit of a sore shoulder, so they're not letting him throw. So he was just really out there fielding the ball. Like in the second game, he would just field the ball, and they assumed that he would throw the ball out. They're not letting him throw at all right now. But he's a good player we got coming in as a freshman. And another freshman. Now I keep mentioning freshmen, but they're kind of shocking right now. Tyler Holland, he went 2 for 2 in this game. He's a all-around player. He can play the infield. They had him in left field, and he can pitch. Now, I don't know how much pitching he's going to do on the staff, but they call him the Shohei Ohtani of this team. And pitching-wise, thing that stood out, you know, Gage, Wood, and Gackle, they look great, as always. Tate McGuire, a guy that kind of got lost in the shuffle. We didn't get to mention him on the previous show when we talked about the pitching staff, but he kind of got lost in the shuffle last year on the staff. And he looked great. He threw an inning, struck out 2 hitters. Parker Coyle, we talked about him last episode about how's he strike thrower, and seems like he's going to have a good junior season. He struck out the side. They didn't touch him. So he looked really good. And Dylan Carter came in, threw a couple of innings, looked good as well. And another thing, Fouch came in, threw an inning. Very shocking here. Aiden Jimenez pitched in this game. Was not expecting to see him out there. So he's apparently farther along than we thought he was. He threw an inning, looked really good, struck out 3 batters. And then but he's the one that gave up the home run to Pepe. But other than that, he looked phenomenal.
Yeah. I remember DVH mentioning how he was probably a little bit further along than, the timeline for,
Yep.
clearing everything for an injury like that, and said that they would probably have him closer to the start of the season that they thought. And, this is great. He only threw 19 pitches. So, you're getting him out there, kind of getting him back in the feel of things. That's why you don't see him letting him go a long period of time there, if you will. But like you said, if you look at it just for the great team, like the starters, if you will, Geckel, 2 full innings there. Like you said, throwing 33 pitches. Gage Wood on the other side throwing 28 in those 2 innings, giving up a hit. But, Gage Wood's I'm a guy that I'm excited to see where he's going to fit in this year, because he's a guy that, could probably start for you any given night if you need him to. But is he going to be kind of not regulated, but are you going to see him with the talent here with, you think, we mentioned it the other night, between Geckel, Root, and Beetlecheese? Is he going to be a guy that's going to be a long reliever, closer type guy? Or,
I'm not really sure. It's a good problem to have. It's great having 4 potential guys that you can throw in there and start. You saw Zach Root started the next game, and Vital Cheese started today's game. So I think it's going to be those 3 to start the season. We do play a 4-game series with Washington State to start the year. So I think you're going to see all 4 of them pitch, all 4 of them start the games. But it's a good problem to have. I think Gage Wood, you're not going to really see him pitch in the midweek. I think he's going to be a big-time, maybe the first guy out of the pen with McIntyre possibly. But we need a guy like that. I know he mentioned last year he wanted to have Gage Wood as a starter this year, but I don't think he expected to get the 2 guys we got out of the transfer portal either. So you could see it. It may be a battle of, who's pitching the best. We're going to start this guy, or maybe he really goes, because if you think about it, Gackel's a righty, and then Root and Vital Cheese are lefties, and Gage is a righty. So it may complement if we face an all-lefty team where you got Vital Cheese and Root starting the game, and then complement Wood after it, or it may be where you have a higher righty team and you have Gage come in after Gackel. So it's going to be about matchups. It's not a bad problem to have at all. I love that we have 4 guys capable, and they're 2 righties, 2 lefties.
Yeah, and like you said, it could just be like a case by case basis, and that's incredible. That's an incredible thing to have, right? To have multiple guys that can start like that, and then hey, this team has 5 left-handed batters, and this team has 5 right-handed batters, so we're going to start different guys each time, and they could do it on different days too. I haven't watched any of these scrimmages or anything, but it kind of sounds like they might not even have to start 1, 2, 3. They could probably go, except for Geckel, sorry. He's probably going to be the ace, but the other 3 could probably start day 2 or day 3. I don't think there's much of a difference in quality. That's what I'm gathering. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah, I think it's going to be more of number one, you don't want to get the guys out of a routine. So if you do know you're going to be the Saturday starter, that's when you're going to pitch, because you do have certain things you do before every day leading up to the game when it's your time to pitch, if you're going to be a starter. But Gage hasn't really gone a full season starting in conference play. Vital Cheese and Root have. So that may be the thought behind Dave's mind of that's what I'm going to start the season with. But I think he has a lot of confidence in Gage Wood. So, and he's always been a guy that loves to go to the bullpen of somebody that he trusts. So I could really see him having that role this year.
Yeah. Another name that, we didn't talk about necessarily the other night that, a lot of people might not know about is Give us the story on Steele Eves. What's the we've talked about all these other names. Like I feel like from the guys we've talked about, he's kind of gotten lost in the shuffle a little bit. What's the story with him?
Yeah, so he came in. He didn't pitch very well, but that's kind of common with freshman pitchers. They don't really get. We were spoiled with Gackle last year. A lot of freshmen. Even we'll get to Cole Gibbler and Carson Wiggins in a bit, but they didn't pitch very well either in these scrimmages. Plus, it was 40 degrees outside, so that may be a factor too. But he was the number 4 overall prospect by Prep Baseball. So he's a big time recruit that we got in. He also played catcher in high school. So I don't think he'll be catching on this team because we have a loaded catching. But you may get some. You may see him this year. It's hard to really know. It was interesting seeing him pitch in this first scrimmage game because I wasn't sure exactly where he would fit in this rotation, but it is interesting that he came in the game so early. So you may see him pitch this year, maybe in the midweek. Dave isn't going to really trust a freshman right off the bat like that. Gackle he did last year, but it's going to be interesting to see because I wasn't expecting Steele Eves to be a big part this year, but that's the only thing about freshmen. You never really know. I've heard a lot about Cole Gibbler and Wiggins, obviously, because they're in the top 75 in the country. But Steele Eves, I mean, he didn't look great today, but he's got his reputation perceives himself as one of the best, recruit out of high school. So could see him this week. We'll see how he does. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we see him opening weekend for an inning or two, because some of these freshmen, they can still get some games in and still redshirt. So It's possible we could see them a lot in non-conference play before he gets the rotation fully down.
Yeah, fair enough. As we kind of shift over to game 2, you just hinted at that name. Pitching for, the second string guys, if you will. You had Cole Gibbler, the guy you just referenced, first guy out for the red team. 1 1/3 innings for him, 3 hits, 5 runs allowed, 2 strikeouts, 2 walks. And then you had Colin Fisher, Big Tuna, following him up. Glad to see him back. He was a guy that, was a key staple in those midweek games last year. And, hate to see him go down. And I think he's another guy that will be a decent contributor this year. He went an inning in the 3rd, allowed 4 hits, 4 runs, 1 walk, no strikeouts for him. Ben Bybee, another veteran guy that, you can go to if you need that extra depth. That's the thing with this year's roster. And we talked about it the other night with 15 guys that are all at some point in the season probably going to see some innings at some point. 2 1/3, 2 hits allowed, 2 strikeouts, and then Farrell wrapping up things, going the final 2/3 there, 3 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk. And so for the red team, a little bit of a combination of, 2 younger guys with Gibbler and Fisher, and then you have Bybee, as a veteran guy that you kind of throw in there in a relief role. So, out of those guys, what were the thoughts or, the breakdowns of them for this second game?
So I thought Gibbler, this is his first time pitching, like I said, freshman pitcher. I really have a lot of confidence in Gibbler. I think he's going to be really good for us this year. Freshman pitcher, 40-degree weather, and he's going up against our starters, just probably, grip on the ball and stuff. He did walk a couple of people, and he is a strike thrower. And I think it was who was it that did that? I think it was Michael. We'll get into him in a second, but yeah, Gibbler maybe a little bit of nerves. 40-degree weather, like I said. I think he's going to end up pitching well. We'll see how he does in next weekend scrimmage. But this is what the great thing is about this is practice. getting a chance to pitch and stuff before we get into the real thing. Colin Fisher, it was good to see him out there. He did get roughed up a little bit, but it's just good to see him back out there and pitching again when we're 2.5 weeks away from the season. So that's always a good thing to just get back out there. And then Ben Bobby, he may be in for a great season. He looked great towards the end of last year. Big old boy, big, tall, and he throws hard. And he struggled with command a little bit in his early years, but he's starting to throw a lot more strikes. I think it was the Kansas State game when Hagan got roughed up a little bit. He came in and really threw a couple of innings
down a little bit.
Yeah, he settled it down. So I think that was I know we lost the game, but I think it helped him. So I expect Bobby, because he's really been like a midweek guy. We had to use him a lot last year and towards the end of the season after we had a few injuries, but I think he could really be a good factor for this team this year.
Yeah, he's a guy that I want to see, see what he can finally do this year. Like you said, those early years really struggling. I remember, I think it was his freshman season. And this just comes to mind, and it's probably on his mind a lot, is there was a series against Georgia where he had probably one of the worst innings he's probably ever had, where he gave up some runs that ultimately, gave up the game for Arkansas. But like you said, this year could be a breakout season for him. You saw him, like you said, down the stretch last year, especially after the Colin Fisher injury. You had to have somebody to, roll out there for those midweek games, and it gave him a great opportunity to get some innings under his belt, continue that mental growth and being able to progress in, his command, and being able to, like you said, perfect example, that Kansas State game, Higgins was struggling. He comes in, kind of settles things a little bit for Dave, and that's going to go a long way for a guy like Dave Van Horn. If he can count on you to be like, hey, Star's not having a great game, come in, settle us down, and let's get us back in a groove.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely. So he could so you think he could kind of play like a Will McIntyre type role in the future? Like, I know whenever, the starter would come out, Big Mac come in, and he's almost like a second starter that comes in after the starter, if that makes sense. So are you saying that he could be kind of like that?
In and just, he could be an innings eater, very much so. He's struggled with giving up the long ball in the past, but I think that just comes with experience, and I just like the way that he pitched Friday. I'm not Friday, but Saturday. And I rewatched the Kansas State game, and I just loved how he came in the game, season on the line, after our ace pitcher just gave up 5 runs in 1 inning, and really settled things down and gave us a chance to come back in the game.
Yeah, so that's awesome, because I tell you what, dude, I like a lot of pitchers on this team, but the one that always just sticks out to me is Will McIntyre. And if we could have 2 guys like that, you can come in relief and calm things down or take up a whole lot of the game. That's great. I'd like that. Have one, Will play the first game, Bobby play the second game. I mean, that's recipe for a good season, I feel. Yep,
absolutely. Yeah, and then like I mentioned earlier, Zach Root pitched for the opposing team, and like you just talked about, McIntyre, they both threw 2 innings, gave up a run, but they both looked good. They're both veteran pitchers. Zach Root's been at ECU for a few years now and pitched in big time games. ECU's always had a decent baseball program, and McIntyre's back. And then Farrell pitched an inning. But the big takeaway on that one is we have maybe a catcher that nobody was anticipating taking over the second role in the team. I think a lot of people thought it was going to be Elliot Peterson. He hit over 500 in JUCO last year, so I think everybody just assumed he was going to be the backup to Helfert. But we have a freshman, Zane Becker. He had 2 hits in this game, an RBI, and he hit cleanup in the game. So I think that shows that Dave's got a lot of confidence in this kid. Freshman catcher, I think he might be the best defensive catcher on the team too. So I expect to see him in a lot of games this year. And really, Dave here lately has liked to play 3 catchers throughout the year. That's not to say Helfert's not going to be in the lineup, because Helfert's got bats, got to be in the lineup. So he may be a DH on one day to take a break from catching. But Zane Becker, I expect to see him in the lineup quite a bit this year, especially in midweek games.
I was about to say, yeah, he's the number 4 overall pitcher out of Texas, or catcher. Sorry.
Catcher, yeah. So big time games. He really performed well in all the games he played in the scrimmages. But I like to see that, because I wasn't really expecting that. I was thinking it was going to be Peterson right away, but they haven't really been playing Peterson at catcher. Peterson did have a hit and RBI in this game. And then you have Aloy Wahiva's brother had a hit in this game. I think they said his hit was 110 miles per hour off the bat. That's just ridiculous. I wouldn't want 40-degree weather. I wouldn't be wanting to get in front of that ball.
Not at all,
man. And then
that was Cahillo, you said?
Cahia, is it? I think it's pronounced Cahia.
Is it Cahia or Cahillo?
Cahillo. I think it's Cahillo. Yeah, Cahillo.
Yeah.
Cahillo. Yeah, I got to say it a few times. But Gabe Frazier had a hit in this game, that freshman we talked about. And then let's see, who was the other lineup? So Davalon, so the center fielder who Dave has talked about, he's locked up the spot. There was a ball hit, and I think it was Lloyd that hit this ball. He basically went up against the wall, caught it, hit the wall. He exited the game after that and did not return. So don't really know as far as extent. He did play today, but only as a DH. He didn't play in the field. So I haven't really heard anything other than that. So we don't know if it was just precautionary. So hopefully he's okay. He did have a hit today. So like I said, he played DH for the team, and he's been leading off every game. So I think he's going to be our leadoff hitter this year. But don't want to ever see that, especially at the start of the season. So
yeah, especially after, that's kind of a scenario of what happened, with Diggs last year's. He had so many catches where he goes up and would just, extend and hit that wall, or he'd dive, and that's how that shoulder injury came. And so yeah, I would like you were saying, I think today was probably a precautionary thing, just to he was fine enough to swing the bat and hit, just being precautionary and not wanting anything to happen before you get to even the first game of the season.
Yeah, and luckily this year, not hoping that we have an injury, but this year we do have the depth to recover from somebody going down for a little bit or whatnot. Because we had Justin Thomas in center field today, which is another phenomenal athlete. But Logan Maxwell in Saturday's game, he went 2 for 4. That's another guy that Dave Van Horn has talked about, really locked up an outfield spot. Probably going to see him in right field a lot this year. This guy, he just hits. He's done it throughout his career. TCU is, I believe, 2 years ago he hit 305, and last year he hit 335. So you talk about a guy that gets on base, and Dave said that there's not a ball that he puts in play that doesn't look good. So really excited that we got Maxwell. I think he's especially from a team that beat us like they did a few years ago in our own regional. But yeah, Maxwell's looks very good. Aloy had 2 hits. Iredale got a hit in this game. Diggs had 2 hits, 2 RBIs. So that was good to see because this is really his first time swinging the bat against live pitching. So to see him just get back in the swing of things that quickly looked good. Helfrich drove a few in with a hit. Souza had another hit. Thomas had a hit, walked a couple times, stole a few bases, doing what he does. And Michael Anderson, this is another thing about the first base position. Michael Anderson hadn't really been talked about a whole lot with all the guys we got in. He's coming from Rhode Island. He's hit 23 home runs in his career. And he hit a 2-run. I think it went 418 feet, 2-run shot to left field. There's a clip of a kid trying to dive and catch it, missing it. It was poor kid, but yeah, he played first base in this game, so it looks like the first base position may be coming down. I know he said he had 7 guys trying out for it, but it may be between Pepe, Michael Anderson, and maybe Diggs, because he did start at first base, and you got to get his bat in the lineup somehow. So it's going to be interesting to see who wins that battle. But you saw Pepe hit a home run on Friday, and Anderson hit one on Saturday. So and Anderson may actually be the best glove out of all of them. So
yeah. So thinking about it, looking at it, because I mean that's where he played naturally. I think over the past few seasons is you look at him shifted to the other corners. Reese Robinette, he's been playing that third base slot a lot, and he was a guy that you thought before camp, and maybe some of all these guys that we recruited out of the portal and whatnot would be a guy that could come in and give you a guy at first base. Does it look like he's probably going to show up and be your third baseman this year?
No, I think the third baseman's going to be Iredale. He's too highly talented. He's a number 2 JUCO impact transfer. I mean, he hit 417 last year and had can't remember, like 18 home runs, 60-something RBIs, 25 stolen bases. So they really are trying to get him going. That's the guy that we're lucky to have as well. He turned down LSU. A lot of different schools wanted him, and we were lucky to grab him. I think that he's going to end up because he's been the starter for the starting team. Iredale, we haven't really gotten into the infielders yet, but I think he's one of the most – I've been excited about him because this guy hits. Hopefully he starts the season hot, but maybe it's the 40-degree weather that was hurting him this weekend. He didn't hit very well this weekend, but I think Iredale is probably going to be, and you'll see Robinette in there. He'll get more playing time this year, and I really like Robinette too. But I think Iredale is going to be the third baseman when it's all said and done. He's just too high of a prospect, and almost got drafted this year. That's how, and like I mentioned, everybody really wanted him. I think he's going to be a middle of the order hitter, and I think when we first got him, it almost was Heston Kjerstad vibes, type of hitter that we haven't had in a while. I really think he's going to be that good, and he can run too. Steal some bags when he gets on base. So I think it's going to end up being Iredale.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. That's going to be interesting to see how, like you said, some of those playouts you're going to see, maybe a few different guys during midweeks. You'll see your starters some, but you'll probably see some other guys just give some rest to these starters, especially once you get towards conference play and things of that nature. So, and then we jump over to today's game as we round out the scrimmages. So, great stuff we've seen so far. And when you look at today's game between the two teams, like you said, Vital Cheese started for the starting squad, 2 innings under his belt, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts. You had Davis come in for an inning, Williams for 2/3, and then Tag Andrews for an inning. Mm-hmm. What was the vibe around looking at these guys on this team for today?
So really, you got to the Sunday game, and you were really just throwing some freshmen trying to get them some looks. Vital Cheese started through 2 innings, scoreless innings. He did walk 3, so that's a little bit of a concern, but not too overly concerned because it's 40 degrees first time out there. But 2 solid innings, not giving up any runs. Davis, Williams, and Andrews, they all got a chance to pitch. They all struggled. Kind of settled down a little bit when they struggled, but those are freshmen that you may see a game or 2 in the midweek that they play, but they'll probably end up getting redshirted with the amount of depth we have on the staff. And then on the flip side, Wiggins, first time out, 40-degree weather. Like I said, I keep mentioning that, but that's not baseball weather. Wiggins struggled, walked a few hitters, gave up 3 earned runs, and but a bright spot guy came out of nowhere is Felder. He pitched 2 1/3 innings with 4 strikeouts. So that's another guy that came out of nowhere, another freshman. So like I said, another guy we weren't really expecting. So maybe he gets a little bit more of a look, but hard to tell after just one scrimmage. And then Kendall Diggs again. He led off for this game, played DH. He's not really playing in the field or running the bases right now, but he had another hit, RBI, walked twice, got on base every time. Zane Becker got on base a few more times. Michael Anderson had an RBI hit that we talked about. Robinette had a hit in this game, scored a couple runs. And then, Tyler Holland, that freshman I talked about, Mr. Sheho Otani, he had 3 RBIs in this game. And that's he had 2 hits in the other game. So that's another guy that could get some playing time in the midweek or maybe sneak in there. So it's interesting to see how it's gonna end up panning out. And then Aloy had a hit. Souza had another RBI hit. He's been playing well. Not a whole lot of other action besides that. And this one was only 6-3.
Yeah, didn't go a ton of innings in this one, but that guy you mentioned, Felder, he's a local product too. A lot of people might not know that he's a Springdale guy from just down the road in Springdale. Number 5 overall pitcher in Arkansas as well. So you got some of these other more nationally known guys like you think your Wiggins or your Gibbler, or more highly touted, if you will. But a guy like Felder could easily sneak in some innings, in some of these midweek games with, some outings like this.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, wasn't expecting him because, this pitching rotation is so deep, and we only talk about the guys ahead and the guys we've seen do it. And the freshmen we've talked about already. So when you see a freshman get in there, and that's a good thing about these scrimmages, everybody's going to play, even the guys that are getting redshirted. So you get a look at what the future holds too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's always good to get guys who are from the state. We talk about it in all the other sports, but we don't really talk about it in baseball that much because they don't really have a problem with it. I feel like we have at least 1 or 2 in-state guys that just come in and do well, and it doesn't even matter where they're ranked necessarily. But I feel like Van Horn does a good job, going in-state and finding guys like him. And then there was another one, you said Lonoke, and he's from, or not Lonoke. Oh my gosh. That's where he's from, Lonoke. Another freshman that we were talking about earlier.
Is it Eves or?
I don't remember. But yeah, just having guys that come from the state and that can, play for something more than just themselves or to get to the league. That's always going to be a great thing. And no, it was Eves.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, you gotta love it. So yeah, this team will keep continuing practice, and we'll keep you guys up to date. But the season's getting closer, and we're excited. We'll probably, I'll be interested to see, and we'll keep you guys up to date if it happens on, if we're gonna get another full big press conference from Dave before season opens up here. But, there's a lot of excitement. We got a lot of depth and pitching quality. Stay tuned in for our episode later this week, where we'll probably break down some of the infield guys this week. But it's going to be a fun year. You're going to have to learn some more names. You lost some names, but you still got the I like to call them the Flying Hawaiians from last year, Souza and Aloy back, and then you add Aloy's brother, and some of these JUCO kids you're going to have to learn, but you've got Helfrich back. You got you got all new pitching staff for the most part, other than Geckel. So you're going to have to scan this roster, get to know some of these names, but there's a lot of optimism and excitement out there for this upcoming baseball season. And I think just, these scrimmages were open to the public. I unfortunately didn't get to attend any, but that helps get people more excited. As cold as it is, there were still people out there today in that 40-degree weather, watching this team just scrimmage and inter-squad scrimmage. It's not like they're playing anybody. It's just practice. And, that's Arkansas baseball for you. People love to – they'll just go out and watch a practice just because it's so fun to watch these guys and Coach Van Horn. And I'm excited. I think it's going to be a fun season. It always is with Arkansas baseball, at least for sure the regular season. Would love to have some fun in postseason play this year, though.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get back to Omaha. And I know we're about to wrap things up, but a fun fact I'll give the fans. It's a little bit of hope. The last time that Arkansas lost in 2 straight regionals, they made the College World Series the next season. So if history tells the tale, we might be going back.
I'll take it. I was about to say, Arkansas fans need some hope after, the way things have been. Like, I know we joked about it last episode, but it's like Dave Van Horn, he probably understands that the other 2 sports hasn't necessarily panned out. And so he probably not necessarily feels pressure, but, he knows, like I've said before, and I tell people, compared to other sports like Arkansas baseball, I feel like they have a very high floor. Like the floor is you're going to make postseason, and probably 8, 9 out of 10 times you're going to be hosting a regional as well. Like Arkansas fans are, a little spoiled with baseball when it comes to the expectations. That floor is so high when you have situations like the past couple of seasons where, man, you don't even make it out of your own regional. It almost leaves a bad taste in your mouth, and like that you underachieved. But most teams would love to just get a postseason bid and get into an opportunity to go to a regional. So, but I mean, Arkansas baseball is just known for doing a lot more than that. So,
Yep.
So, before we get out of here, we got some big things planned and upcoming for the next few weeks. Some big things in the works. Once we have some more details hammered out, we're going to let you guys know. But stay tuned. It's going to be some exciting stuff we got coming. You do not want to miss it, I promise. Big things are in the works. Had some meetings and stuff this weekend, and we'll keep you guys up to date. But fantastic stuff there. But thank everybody for tuning in. You can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. That way every time we go live. And you don't miss any of these exciting things we're talking about. But, wrapped it up. Arkansas basketball, tough loss on the road or at home after a win. Gymnastics have a big upset over LSU, and then baseball, as the season grows closer, the excitement continues to build. And I can't wait for it. It's going to be fun stuff. And we'll be back this week for our regular episode. And no midweek basketball, so we won't have to, put ourselves through talking basketball at least for the midweek. We'll prep the Kentucky game, but we won't have to talk about a loss potentially, which will be the best part. So we're gonna get out of here. We'll see you guys on Thursday. For Austin, Hobbs, I'm Caleb. We're gonna get out of here, and we'll see you later in the week. Have a great week and great Monday.